Hello. In 2024, the Kansas City Chiefs won Super Bowl 58, and a few weeks later they had a parade and a rally. Here's a picture of the rally there at Union Station in downtown Kansas City. And a common question for these types of events is to estimate the number of people that attended. It's helpful to know when you're planning the number of bathrooms and food vendors and security and so forth you're going to need. But that's not an easy question, and it's going to be an example of a type of problem we'll look at here in a minute in this section. But before we jump into that, let me give an example of a more basic type of estimation that we're probably already familiar with. And let me just give an example of what that might be. And so the question is, how many miles do I ride on my bike to work each year? Now notice this is something I can't Google and only I can answer it. And also I probably want a fairly precise number. I can't just have a ballpark number that is several order of magnitudes error. So let's work through the numbers. So the first thing I need to know is that it's about 6.8 miles round trip to Emporia State. The next thing is how often do I ride? And typically 4 days a week. Again, that's another estimate. So notice these estimation problems are often made up of several smaller estimates. And that makes our problem a little easier than just trying to come up with a number out of thin air. The next question is how many weeks out of the year? And if I had to guess, I would pick 30 because there's holidays and summer break and bad weather. And we'll see what this gives us. So if we multiply this all through, that works out to 816 miles a year. Now, that's a little bit overly precise. I have no confidence that it's 816 versus 815. So I would probably actually write this as about 800 miles. Because that first digit is probably the only one that's likely to actually be accurate. But there was a lot of estimates in this problem, and so I might want to have an interval estimate as well. In that case, I might want to broaden this 4 days a week to 3 to 5 days a week. That's probably a safer assumption that my average is somewhere in that interval. Likewise, this 30 was a bit of a guess. Probably on a typical year, that number is somewhere between 25 to 40 weeks. Now, if we incorporate those two intervals into a overall lower bound and overall upper bound, we get 510 to 1,360 miles per year. And depending on what I'm doing, if I'm trying to estimate the amount of money I'm saving by riding a bike instead of driving, these two numbers give me enough of an estimate to be useful, but it was quick enough that I didn't have to do a lot of extra work. Now, of course, one can buy a computer for their bike and get a more accurate number, but if we didn't have that, this would get us a close estimate. Now, we'll talk about the next type of estimation in the next video, so we'll see you there.